Here is a place that looks enormous on every map you have ever seen, and is somehow still bigger than you think. Greenland is the largest island on Earth. It is more than 3 times the size of Texas, and the number of people who live on all of it, every town, every village, every wind-scraped settlement along thousands of miles of fjord-cut coastline, is about 56,000. That is not a city. That is a single college football stadium, 2/3 full, spread across a landmass that stretches farther north to south than Miami is from Montreal. Now add the strangest part. You cannot drive from any town to any other town. Not because the roads are bad, because they do not exist. There is not one road connecting any 2 settlements in Greenland. When the pavement ends at the edge of Nuuk, the capital, it simply stops, and beyond it is rock, ice, and water. If you live here and you want to visit the next town up the coast, you take a plane, a helicopter, a boat, or in winter, in the north, a dog sled. Tonight, we are going to live here, you and me. We are going to see what the ice actually is, why the maps have been lying to you about this place, what a bag of groceries costs when it arrives by ship, and why 56,000 people look at all of that. The dark, the distance, the price of everything. And stay. Not because they are trapped, because, as most of them will tell you, there is nowhere else like it on Earth. By the end, you can answer the only question that matters. Could you live here? Start with the reason almost nobody can live here, and it is not the cold air. It is what is under it. Roughly 80% of Greenland is buried under a single continuous sheet of ice, the second largest body of ice on the planet, after Antarctica. This is not a snowfield that melts in July. In the middle of the island, the ice is, at its thickest, around 2 miles deep. 2 miles. If you stood on the bedrock at the bottom and stacked 7 Empire State Buildings on top of each other, you would just about break the surface. The weight of it has actually pressed the center of the island down into a bowl, below sea level in places. So when you look at Greenland on a map and imagine towns dotted across the interior, understand, there is no interior. There is no soil to farm, no ground to build on, no rock to anchor a foundation, just a slowly moving ocean of ice, groaning and cracking as it flows toward the sea. The interior is so consistently brutal that the coldest temperature ever verified in the northern hemisphere was recorded there. Minus 69.6 degrees Celsius, minus 93 Fahrenheit, confirmed by the World Meteorological Organization from an automatic station sitting alone on the ice cap. No human was present to feel it, which is the point. Humans do not go there in winter. Life in Greenland is not life on Greenland. It is life on the rim, a thin ribbon of ice-free rock along the coast, where the towns cling like barnacles between the ice sheet behind them and the sea in front. So why is a place that is 80% ice called Greenland? Because it was an advertisement. According to the medieval Icelandic sagas, a Norseman called Eric the Red was banished from Iceland for killing several men, the sagas are casual about this, and sailed west, where he found deep fjords in the southwest that genuinely do turn green in summer. When his exile ended, he went back to Iceland to recruit settlers, and he named his discovery Greenland, the sagas say, because he reckoned people would be more eager to go if the place had an attractive name. It is maybe the oldest recorded example of real estate marketing, and it worked. Ships full of families followed him. And there is a second lie on top of the first one, and this one you were shown in school. On the standard classroom map, the Mercator projection, Greenland looks about the same size as Africa. It is not remotely close. Africa is around 14 times larger. Mercator maps stretch everything near the poles, and Greenland sits almost entirely in the far north, so it gets inflated more than nearly any place on Earth. The real Greenland is huge, again, 3 Texases, but the giant continent-sized Greenland in your head is a projection artifact, which sets up the real question of this video. Strip away the marketing name and the map distortion, and you are left with a narrow, rocky, roadless coastline in the Arctic. What does it actually cost? In money, in patience, in winter, to build a life there? Let us move you in. Say you take a job in Nuuk, the capital, a real city, with traffic lights, a university, sushi, a shopping center, and nearly 20,000 people, which makes it home to about 1 in 3 Greenlanders. Your first week feels almost ordinary. Then you try to leave town, and you learn the fundamental rule of Greenlandic life: the road ends. Every town is an island, even the ones on the mainland. Between settlements, there is no highway, no rail line, no bus. The mountains, the fjords, and the ice make roads between towns somewhere between pointless and impossible, so the country simply never built them. Your options for getting anywhere are a plane, a helicopter, a ferry, or, up north in season, a snowmobile or a dog sled across the sea ice. Think about what that does to everything you take for granted. There is no such thing as a road trip. No driving to a cheaper store 1 town over. If the weather closes the airport, and Arctic weather closes airports, you are not leaving today, and possibly not this week. Medical emergencies in small settlements mean a helicopter, and helicopters mean waiting on the sky to cooperate. Even the country's main international gateway for decades, Kangerlussuaq, is not a city at all. It is a former American air base from the Second World War, built there because it has the most reliably calm flying weather on the island, with only a few hundred residents and a lot of runway. In Greenland, distance is not measured in miles. It is measured in whether you can go at all. Now let us talk about the receipt, because this channel always reads the receipt. Almost nothing you buy in Greenland was made in Greenland. The tomatoes, the toothpaste, the couch, the car that will never leave city limits, nearly all of it arrives by container ship from Denmark, or, for the small and urgent things, by air. And every mile of that journey is baked into the shelf price. Fresh produce in a supermarket has crossed an ocean to reach you. In the smaller settlements, it has then been transferred to a smaller boat or a plane, and the price climbs with every transfer. Groceries that would be unremarkable in Copenhagen become a line item you plan around. Fresh fruit in a remote village in February is not a snack. It is a small event. Then there is getting anywhere. Because every trip between towns is a flight or a sailing, travel inside your own country costs what international travel costs elsewhere, and a family visit up the coast becomes something you budget for months ahead. Heating a home through an Arctic winter, keeping the lights on through weeks of darkness, maintaining buildings that fight frost heave and the pitarack, a katabatic storm wind off the ice sheet that can reach hurricane force, all of it costs more. Always, forever. Here is the honest math of the Arctic. The beauty is free and everything else is imported. And yet, and this is the part that surprises people, nobody here is confused about the deal. The cost of living in Greenland is the cost of living in Greenland. The people who stay have decided year after year that what the island gives them back is worth more than what the shelf charges. So what exactly does it give back? Greenland works on 3 engines. The first is fish. Around 90% of everything Greenland exports comes from the sea, mostly shrimp and halibut, pulled from some of the richest cold water fisheries on Earth. The joke is that the national economy swims. It is barely a joke. In the small settlements, the rhythm of the year is still the rhythm of the boats, and a good season is the difference between a fat winter and a thin one. The second engine is the block grant. Greenland governs itself, but it remains part of the Danish kingdom, and every year Denmark transfers a block grant of roughly $500 million, a sum that covers a large share of the public budget. That money is why a country of 56,000 can run hospitals, schools, and helicopters to villages of 80 people. It is also the center of the island's biggest argument. Full independence is a real political goal, and the grant is the hard math standing between the dream and the checkbook. The third engine does not show up in statistics. People feed each other. Hunting and fishing are not hobbies here. A freezer full of reindeer, musk ox, seal, and halibut is normal household infrastructure, and sharing the catch with family and neighbors is an old rule that never stopped applying. When the store is expensive and the weather owns the calendar, community is not a nice word on a poster. It is the supply chain. That is how the math closes. The sea pays the bills, the grant keeps the state running, and the people carry each other through the winter. So here is your year, if you stay. In late spring, the sun stops setting. North of the Arctic Circle, in Ilulissat, where a fjord full of icebergs the size of city blocks drifts past town, a place so unearthly UNESCO put it on the World Heritage List. The midnight sun rolls along the horizon, and 2 in the morning looks like afternoon. People fish at midnight. Kids play outside at hours that would horrify a parenting blog. The island runs a summer-long surplus of light, and then it pays it all back. In winter, the far north goes weeks without a sunrise. Even Nook, further south, squeezes daylight into a few pale hours. The wind can push wind chill past anything you have vocabulary for. Storms can pin a town in place for days, and the airport board just says tomorrow, maybe. This is the trade, and it filters people brutally. Some arrive, watch the first polar night come down, and book the next flight to Copenhagen. And some feel the town pull closer as the dark comes in. Lit windows against a black fjord. Everyone in the same weather, in the same boat. The northern lights running green overhead like the sky showing off. And they realize they are home in a way a highway suburb never managed. 56,000 people have run this exact experiment on themselves and voted stay. Not because it is easy or cheap, because it is theirs. And because nowhere else on earth looks like this, sounds like this, or asks this much and gives this much back. So, honestly now, no road out of town, groceries by sea, a month without a sunrise. Could you do it? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more places like this, the beautiful, brutal corners of the map where people live anyway, that is what this channel is for. Subscribe and come along.